AskReddit by full with a flam. Who abandoned their core audience and paid the price for it? Cracked.com. There were a couple years there where they transformed from a second-rate mad knockoff to some of the smartest, funniest stuff on the internet. Then the people who held the purse strings decided listicles and Photoshop contests were more profitable than a writing staff. Jason Pargin, aka former Cracked writer and executive editor David Wong, wrote a retrospective about how the greed kinda seeped in, and they'd monetize a little bit and the readership numbers held, so they'd monetize a little bit more, and the numbers held, and a little bit more and just a little bit more until readers hit a breaking point because it was no longer worth it. Stumble upon. It was a small website giving you randomized internet pages which I used to browse for hours as they were so fun. Now it turned into Mix and I have no clue what it is. Pretty sure no one uses it and it makes me sad. I miss that site. I moved to Reddit once they changed. I used to get so much entertainment and information from there. I really want a new version. Etsy. Used to be a fairly cool place to buy and sell mostly handcrafted stuff and items to make handcrafted stuff. Now it's basically shady Amazon with worse shipping. Everyone seems to be dropshippers and a lot of the more niche crafter artisan things are pushed out and overwhelmed by cheaper, mass-produced goods. I used to love Etsy and now I never even look there. I bought a set of dice about a year ago that were explicitly listed as being handmade in the US. Then I got a tracking number from China. Photobucket. Back when forums were still a thing, Photobucket would host your images for free. Then one day they decided everyone would have to pay monthly, no free tier, nothing. We all collectively agreed we would not be paying, and that was that. I feel like it may have contributed to the death of forums. Ruined a few of my car build threads, that's for sure. To this day they still send me emails a couple times a year threatening to delete all my photos if I don't come back. In a similar vein I was going to say Flickr. Flickr could have been Instagram. It was primed and right there. But Yahoo took forever to make a halfway decent mobile app and then tried to charge for it. Yik Yak. It was a way to have conversations with people in the area anonymously, really popular on college campuses. They made an update to create user profiles and pretty much everyone just stopped using it because anonymity was the whole point. Yik Yak's rise and fall coincided perfectly with my first year of university. It was brilliant. The real genius move was making it location specific. Every campus ended up with their own running jokes and local celebrities. I went to Sheffield and we had a chap known as the Morgazoid who shot to fame through his friends chronicling his attempt to write his entire dissertation in a single day. Happy times. I was never entirely sure of the rationale behind forcing people into having usernames. There was speculation it was to avoid legal trouble surrounding bullying, but I don't know whether that was ever substantiated. Whatever happened, they killed the golden goose. Sci-fi channel. At some point there was no sci-fi on it. Used to love sci-fi channel. I feel like the content went downhill right around the time they changed their name to sci-fi, which is also when I stopped watching. Radio Shack. They went from selling electronic components, little gadgets, and interesting tech baubles to nerds to trying to sell expensive cell phone plans and shitty batteries to a different audience. We saw that the customers who came to Radio Shack shifted from middle upper income engineers and tech geeks to lower income people in a 6-year period. Then we saw the geeks stop coming in at all because they would come in for some capacitor or breadboard and the person there wouldn't know what that was. If it wasn't a phone, they didn't know. Even if it was a phone, they probably couldn't tell you anything about it. Old Radio Shack employees were knowledgeable and well paid. New Radio Shack employees didn't give a shit about technology. You've got questions? We've got blank stares. Anyone else remember when the History Channel was about history and not about aliens? Quora. There were excellent groups with intelligent discussions. Then it became monetized and people submitted 100s of questions a day. What time does the Walmart close in Boise? My 16 years old came home with an A, so I took away their phone for 6 months. Not just that, they made it really difficult to navigate the website. Now you go on to look at an answer to a specific question. You might see one answer that isn't super helpful. Then it'll show you an entirely different question with a few answers with no different formatting. And then eventually you scroll down to find more answers to the question you were looking for, except for a long time I'd assumed there were no more answers and just clicked off the site. Absolutely stupid system. Little website called Dig did a major site refresh to increase site revenue without considering the impact and lost their entire user base to Reddit essentially overnight. That's how I moved to Reddit. DeviantArt. I remember having an account there for the longest time and talking to a few artists. Then they all went to Tumblr and my timeline died, so I shut it down and haven't looked back. Discovery, History TV 18 and National Geographic. Once Discover's Man vs Wild got really famous and got them a lot of TRP. They thought this was it. Every one of these channels came out with their own version of MVSW. Some really stupid. A history channel playing this bullshit is of course going to drive the geeks away. Producers would run these shows multiple times in a day as if they had nothing to show other than this. No science and engineering to explain. It was painful to not get to see my favorite science shows on these channels anymore. Edited to add that a reply to this comment by user Mixing Memory has a link to great insight into this and about some idiot CEO David Zaslav. The comment: https://reddit.com/r/askreddit/s/781ag2inmz. I was raised off of History Channel, Animal Planet, and Discovery. Sometime in 2010s each channel imploded with crappy conspiracy content or reality style based shows. Went from the coolest informational shows to mermaid documentaries, ancient aliens, and Hunt for Sasquatch. OnlyFans, briefly banning, https://www.cnbc.com/2021/0/on-lifans-7-it/long-ban-porn-after-after-ban-after-sexually explicit material on their service. That's, like, your entire business model. Tumblr's porn cull wasn't great for traffic either. I just learned from a TikTok that Applebee's tried to become a club at night to attract younger customers, but no one wanted to go hang out at Applebee's, and all the old people who used to go Applebee's didn't like that it turned into a club at night, so they stopped going, and now no one likes Applebee's. I was a manager at an Applebee's when they did this. Probably in like 2009 or something. Probably the lamest club of all time. Basically just stayed open a bit later, turned the lights down, music up, and apps were half. At least at the locations in my area we didn't alienate any regulars. Mostly because the late night club atmosphere started close to when we normally closed. eBay. I used to sell shit for basically beer money. They've made it now where they only want eBay stores, want you to give free shipping and charge fees on that, and discourage the auction format. It used to be a place to clean out your garage knickknacks and what have you, and now it's just a commercial commerce site. I probably haven't looked at the site in 10 years, so maybe they've changed, but I doubt it. When you use a brand name, they'll suggest stock photos for your auction. When I buy used, I really want to see the item and its flaws, not the ideal new look-alike. MTV. Loved watching music videos and the occasional news, behind the music, etc., but their main focus was music videos. Then, for some insane reason, they ditched their tried and true format and became a reality show nightmare. They lost it all. I don't even know if MTV is still around. It's literally just ridiculousness and catfish back and forth on repeat nowadays. Boeing. Built by engineers, corrupted by Wall Street. Moved their HQ away from Seattle's to Chicago just to get away from listening to engineers. Now to Virginia just by DC to continue their hyper-focus on Washington lobbying. Try licking balls of short-term investors and politicians instead of focusing on innovation and safety. Killed hundreds of people into crashes and lost advantage in all industries, civil aviation, aerospace, and defense. It's a real case study on how a once well-run company can lose its way. Tumblr. What's the deal with this anyway? Wasn't the flight from Tumblr mostly due to them banning NSFW material? I heard that they allow it now because it backfired so spectacularly lol. Blizzard Entertainment. Yeah, that was great. The downfall really was announcement of Diablo on mobile devices and telling their followers they are going to P2W model. Then despite the overwhelming backlash, they kept it going and proceeded to fuck up all their other franchises. The NHL. They desperately want to grow the game but make it increasingly more difficult to actually watch them unless you are able to pay for a minimum of 2 subscriptions. The all MLB marketing strategy. If you want to watch every game, you need cable, Apple TV+, Prime and an MLB.com subscription. While I'm aware that it's a complex issue to end blackouts, the solution for me is simple. Fix it or they don't get my $sign. Baseball is the only thing that I'll pirate. The Raiders. Used to have a great home field advantage in Oakland. Now every game in Vegas is half filled with away fans. Laughs in San Diego Chargers. Radio Shack. I just want the ability to buy resistors and capacitors instead of having to order them. OnePlus, it was affordable with decent specs. This one hurts. I remember back in the day where I'd rather get a OnePlus phone cause they were cheap, near stock Android, and you were getting flagship specs. Now they are charging flagship prices while lacking flagship specs. Unity Software. Eagerly seeing how things will ultimately unfold for them and how long it'll take to get there. Cartoon Network. Mid-90s CN was the golden age for then kid me. On the one hand, you had cool new shows like The Mask and SWAT Cats. On the other, the entire Hanna-Barbera catalog to fall back on. That was also the time when they created their own iconic stuff like Dexter, Cow and Amp, Chicken, Johnny Bravo and Amp, the Powerpuff Girls. What an era that was. I feel like cable television is slowly circling the drain due to abandoning their audience and putting on too many commercials. I tried watching cable at a friend's house recently and was shocked at how many commercials they squeeze into a half-hour show block. It feels like 10 minutes of commercials for every 5 minutes of actual programming. Why fucking bother when I can stream it for cheaper and not have to deal with fucking commercials? Watching older sitcoms on streaming really shows how much ads they've added over the years. Streaming Seinfeld or Friends has a runtime of about 24 minutes, credits included. Compare it to Big Bang Theory and Modern Family, they have a runtime of about 19-20 minutes. Ad-free streaming really is worth it. Looking at you Creative Assembly abandoning historical Total Wars and Warhammer 3 in favor of developing a guaranteed dead-on-arrival hero shooter for the past 2 to 3 years. 6 years apparently. One of the old devs was on Twitter and allegedly hyenas had been developing for nearly 6 years. I'm surprised to not see BlackBerry here. They had cornered the high-paying business users of mobile phones. They wanted to become mass market though and came up with ads like "We are the BlackBerry Boys." Got kicked out of both the categories. I wouldn't say that's what killed them though. What killed them was a shitty, slow outdated OS with very basic apps on devices with a trackpad or whatever they called it. Oh, and having to use their BlackBerry internet service to access the web, which was a compressed low quality version of the internet. This while their competitors were coming out with full-featured touchscreen devices, full apps and no BIOS requirement. Volition rebooting Saints Row fits the bill. They removed tons of elements from the earlier games that fans loved, and allowed the change to become a core aspect of the game's pre-launch promotion. The result was a game that reviewed and sold poorly, and Volition closing its doors a year after release. Definitely this. Saints Row was originally touted as a cheap GTA knockoff. The later installments blew that idea out of the water by having a completely batshit insane game of pure chaos. Volition completely ignored that and produced a cheap GTA knockoff. ESPN. It's all talking heads yelling at each other with ridiculous takes or stories about LeBron's shoes. Gone are the days you can turn that channel on and find out what happened in sports that day. In addition, a bunch of people think they are too woke so they won't watch either. I used to watch Sports Center every morning before school, back in the days of Dan Patrick, Stuart Scott, Linda Cohn. I'm not sure what happened, but somewhere along the way somebody got it in their head that what people really wanted was Stephen A. Smith's brand of louder equals right.